Hi folks, and thanks for tuning in. So my wife has been drawing these pictures with our kids as the subject to make a series called Dutiful Children, and she asked me to make some frames. So I happily obliged, but to do that I would like to make a miter sled for the table saw so I can make some really nice but simple frames. So I'm going to draw inspiration from Jay Bates at Jay's Custom Creations and Steve Ramesy at Woodworking for Mere Mortals. Links for their channels are going to be in the description below. And I'm going to use a little bit of both of their ideas to make a sled that works for me. To start out, I'm measuring in 6 inches from either side, just to give me a nice platform to miter my boards on and strike in a line. Mr. Jay Bates actually flipped this board up and used that to cut his angles, but I wanted a little more handle room, and I got that idea from Steve Ramsey. Now I am cutting the runners for the miter slot. Took me a couple tries just tapping the fence over, and I sand it down a little bit, and I end up with a pretty decent fit. A little loose on one side, but it'll work for me. And now I'm using a set of calipers to measure the depth of the miter slot and set the fence appropriately. And I'm only using a couple dabs of glue on here because I'm not planning on having this table saw for hopefully past Christmas time this year. I'll get myself a new table saw. So I want to be able to take these runners off without too much issue. So just a couple dabs of glue, and then I fasten it mostly from the bottom with a couple wood screws that I countersink in so that they don't interfere with the miter slot at all. Getting rid of any excess glue, and it seems to slide pretty well. And now I'm also cutting off the extra runner, and I will keep those for future sleds. And cutting in where the blade is going to go, blade slot for the 90s, for the 45s. And again, measuring in 6 inches so I have a good line to go off of for the handles, which I'm cutting now out of just a piece of scrap 2x6. And I actually cut a 45 on the miter saw first, just so I had a good contact up where the 90 degree angle happens on the sled. And I was surprised, as you can see there, how well that miter saw actually works, which is one reason I didn't get a sliding miter saw, just so that these angles are a little bit better. So I set it up here and put a square on both sides actually. And now I believe I'm cutting the opposite ends just so there's not overhang, and making sure everything looks good, clamping the back sides in place, and then I put a couple, I think I put a 2-inch deck screw through the bottom, again countersinking it, and cutting the slot into the handles. I cut this slot before I screwed in from the bottom, which may or may not have been a good idea because it took me a little while to get it set correctly again. Probably would have been best to screw it down and then cut the slot. So just a tip if one of you guys decide to build one of these. And then again a 2-inch Spax deck screw from the bottom that's countersunk out of the way. And one more screw in the middle of that handle. Then I had just this extra piece, and I thought it would look good in this area just to protect a little more from the blade coming through. And here I'm doing a test piece. And this next picture here is not the same piece, but you can see how well it cuts. And a little bit of Johnson's paste wax on there, just to make it slide better. Well folks, I think it came out pretty good. I cut a few pieces on it so far, and they look quite nice. Much better than if I did them on the miter saw. I will definitely have to put a block on either side so that I have uniform pieces when I flip them over. It's just kind of hard to eyeball with the blade to line it up properly. After waxing the bottom, and I just waxed the table saw top too, this thing slides great. I'm very pleased how it came out. So couple picture frames will be coming up. Stay tuned for that. Please like and subscribe if you like what you see. Again, Jay and Steve's videos are in the description below. I'm Tyler. I like to do it myself. You have yourself a good one. What are you doing? Fixing your computer? Are you doing it yourself?